Good morning, everyone. This is Luda with GAI Insights. We are here to rate daily AI news as essential, important, and optional to save you time and bring the important news up to the front for you. We have a number of very interesting articles from Anthropic announcing new things to a couple of use cases, and we can start right now. So Ankash, please start us up with the new article. Somebody. Yeah, Ankash?
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So the first one that we have for today comes from Anthropic, and it talks about how Anthropic has hiked the price of its Haiku model.
Right. So Anthropic has announced a number of models with a lot of interesting things recently. This is yet another announcement, and it seems like Haiku is doing really well. What do you think about this, Adam?
I think this is optional news, although I also wouldn't be surprised if this starts spurning some of the other foundation models to consider raising prices as well. Their argument, and it's a very good one, is that when they initially priced this, it was Haiku, it was Claude 3, right? And now we're on Claude 3.5, which is an improved model. But Haiku is the small one. And so now for this very low cost pricing, because it's the smallest model, you're actually getting more performance than you used to get out of their Opus model on Model 3. So 3.5 in small is still tremendously powerful. It's more powerful than their old 3.0 Opus, which was their most powerful one, competing with GPT-4. And it's still at an absolute fraction of the cost. So I think it's very smart of them to be doing this. It's pennies on the dollar by comparison, and they know that people are still getting tremendous performance, and they're seeing a lot of movement onto this model. So I think it's a good move, but probably optional overall. People who are aware of this are aware of it. I'd probably leave it at that.
Okay, optional. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, definitely optional. But do we know what the percentage price increase was? Are we talking about a 2% price increase, or we're not talking about a 500% price increase?
No, it's a small.
For it was a 4x price increase.
400%.
4 times. Yeah, it's 4 times.
Yeah, I think it's optional, but I think it's interesting that all these. Yes, it's optional. We're going to continue to have lots of different price optimization because of the cost, but optional.
So let's maybe. Ankash, could you get it to the paragraph and highlight it? So it's pricing for Claude 3.5 Haiku starts at $1 per million input tokens and $5 per million output tokens. So this is in comparison with 25 cents before per million and $1.25 per million output. So 4 times hike. But not, I mean, the scope of things.
It seems more like Claude or Anthropic not thinking about pricing beforehand and releasing a model and thinking, then testing it out and then thinking about pricing.
Yes.
Yeah, this is more like an afterthought. Yeah. Okay, but optional it is, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let's go next one.
Can we just go? We've seen Microsoft with OpenAI, and we've seen a lot more OpenAI drift away from Microsoft. We have Anthropic and AWS. Have we seen any evidence that there's friction there, or do we have a sense that they're working as a really cohesive, basic division of AWS?
That's an interesting question. I don't see my sense, and I can probably substantiate it, but my sense, they're more cohesive than it's Microsoft and OpenAI, right? Because we just hear way more friction between the Microsoft and OpenAI. Here, it's if there is friction, they're working it out before it hits the media.
Yeah. That's my sense as well, Luda. And this can almost be the AWS CFO getting involved and say, guys, get your damn pricing fixed.
Yeah.
I just while you were talking, I went and researched the Claude 3.0 Opus, which is the large model, right? And that's the pricing on that is 15 times what they're charging now for 3.5 Haiku. So people who were using 3.0 Opus, even though they've just had a 4x bump, they're still at 1/15 the cost at better performance using this new Haiku over the older Opus. So
Okay.
I think they definitely had room to be raising these prices.
So it really seems like an afterthought, and it was out of balance. And so this article doesn't say that really. But it seems like they're bringing it in balance.
Well, and I think it to me, it shows some more sophistication. It appears from afar from Anthropic getting into different size models, different size pricing. You know, Adam, do you want a slow car, fast car? Do you want basic intelligence? Do you want a cheap value proposition, or do you want the best in class where OpenAI is just boom, here's O1, take it or leave it?
Yeah.
I
And
hope,
well,
Paul, we're
according
not
to
going to get into bickering when remember the times when when you were buying a car, you bicker about every line in there. It's not yet here, right? But I think for large enterprises, there might be a lot of negotiations happening behind the scenes on the pricing. And Kash, you were
Great.
going to say
so
something.
optional for this one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
optional. Yeah, let's keep
yeah, I
driving.
was waiting for you to say it. Okay, let's go next one.
Okay, the next one comes from C.H. Robinson, and it talks about how they're using GenAI for freight automation.
Yes, this is mine. I rated it as important use case. This, first of all, it's a supply chain. Second of all, it's not a trivial application, but a very impactful one. So C.H. Robertson is a logistics company, right? And they put together a number of years ago an automated system that the customers can tie with, right, and automatically put in their requests, pricing, quotes, requests, and the like. But you could also send an email and get the quote and the load figured out by email. And that obviously took a lot of time. So days, hours or days. So they now took that very murky processes and automated that using GenAI and it says a little bit down in the article all the advancements, right, that they got in timing, and that I think is extremely important in the supply chain industry, right? So they're talking about giving customers resiliency and being able to help them when the strike happens or hurricane happens and the like. So I find it an important, very, very important case. It's very nicely written in like a page and a half. So that's, what do you think? Paul, Adam?
Yeah, I thought it offered some really good use cases, and there's absolutely no detail. I mean, it talks about some of the results, but we don't know what they're using. They said it's proprietary. I just wish that it added a little more insight. Like, it's good for them, but it doesn't really add much value, I feel, to the executive without being able to understand how they actually did this. Right? We don't get, it's a black box. And for that reason, I was on the fence with optional, but I hear your point, and it does lay out specifically within supply chain, which is a big one, some really good use cases.
Yeah, and it's the reason I thought it's worth highlighting, because supply chain, almost every company has logistics one way or the other, right? So and it's a non-trivial case. Everybody is doing chatbots. This is not a chatbot. It's really optimization of lengthy customer-facing processes. So I thought it's useful. Paul, what do you think?
Sure, I think important's good. We don't have that many supply chain. I know we've got 3 or 4 AI leaders we're working with. They're very interested in supply chain. I think it's, yeah, I can support important. Luda.
Okay. Ankash, okay with important?
Yes, Luda, important for me.
Okay, wonderful. Good. Let's go to the next one.
Okay, the next one talks about how General Mills has found business value in GenAI.
Yeah. Paul, what do you think?
I think this is another big company that's finding it. I think in general, I had this as optional. I mean, I do think, Adam, the earlier point, we do at least mention some of the vendors here. They're working with Google. One of the things we talked about yesterday is our team, we're working on now a database of all these different use cases with links to articles and which vendors are using it. But I didn't find anything particularly new in this article. So I had it as optional.
Yeah, in comparison with the prior case, I thought it was optional. There's no impact numbers, the business case numbers. So yeah, I also put it as optional. Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I can support that. Yeah, they mentioned that they used the Palm 2 model, but other than that, they don't really say much about exactly what they did. And it's the singular use case of writing and summarization.
Okay, good. Then optional it is. But Michael found an article for the prior case that that we can include in the newsletter. That's the article about the supply chain case. Thank you, Michael. Okay, let's go to the next one. Optional it is. Ankash.
Yes. So the next one comes from NVIDIA, and it talks about how any industry can now search and summarize vast volumes of visual data.
That's an interesting one. NVIDIA is really building a platform. What do you think about it, Adam?
I'm going to call this optional. It's yeah, NVIDIA. It's NVIDIA Software Inc. Right, and they're just continuing to roll out hit after hit, adding value deeper and deeper into the enterprise. This video search and summarization tool will be really powerful, and I think it's one of many new product announcements, and we're going to see a lot of these out of NVIDIA. So the general guidance is if people are looking at NVIDIA beyond just a chip maker and they're looking at the software stack, they're going to see the AI blueprints, which is one of the other things that's available among all the other announcements we've seen recently. So optional.
Paul, what optional? What do you think?
Optional. Ditto. Agree.
Okay. All right. Optional it is. But interesting, they are really building a platform, right? So, I mean, by mid next year, it certainly will be almost complete with all these pieces. It's amazing. Okay, let's go next one, Ankash.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from OpenAI. So OpenAI has introduced a new feature called predicted outputs, and this feature can increase the speed of GPT-4o model output by up to 5x.
Yeah, this was assigned to me. So this is a feature that if you want to change one paragraph in a generated text, for example, or text actually, the LLM will have to go through the whole, regenerate the whole document. So this feature makes it possible to only focus on this paragraph, and that's where the speed up comes from. But it has a lot of limitations. It's only limited to text, to certain models, and it's really for developers, not for general use, I feel. So I put it as optional. But Paul, Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I could support optional. The two places they say it's really going to make a difference is where you're editing text, and so it assumes all of this stuff isn't going to change. because you're saying to just change this paragraph. So then it doesn't have to send all those tokens back. And so there'll be a big cost reduction. I think there'll be speed as well in terms of the tokens used through the API. The other thing it's really helpful for, and probably a bigger deal, is with coding. I know a lot of people that would use 4 Mini because it's so much faster. And when you have to output 500 lines of code, even if just a little bit of it's changing, it was really arduous. So this will be able to predict, oh, he's just editing this one function, and 95% of that code doesn't have to be output again. So I can see where it'll make a big difference, but it's still probably optional news.
Yeah. Paul, okay with option?
I am, yeah. Ludi, my mom, she's had an interesting point here. Yeah, definitely optional. I mean, I think we're doing press releases on enhancements to sub features. It's kind of funny, but yes, everything's improving rapidly. That is the status quo, and this is optional.
Yeah, okay. Optional it is. Next one, Ankash.
Okay, the last one that we have for today comes from Tencent, and it talks about their open source mixture of expert models with 52 billion activated parameters. The interesting point, I think, in this one was that it has been trained on synthetic data and lots of it.
Not only that, it has a couple of innovations. They are doing key values caching in an interesting way, and a couple of more technical, in-depth discussions. So interesting. Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, interesting, but R&D option. I mean, it continues the frontier on experimentation on all different model variants and sizes and content is breathtaking. But for our AI leader, they should expect that, and this is optional.
Yeah, so I agree with optional because it hits not that many people per se, right? But the fact that the model outperforms Llama significantly, you can scroll to, I think, page 10 on Cash. It's quite impressive results actually. There are 2 tables on 10 or whatever. Yeah, here. See, if you enlarge it, so they compare it with Llama and Llama 70B and a Llama 450B, but on the 70B, it outperforms it pretty cleanly, and it's kind of at par with 450 with a large context window. So the Chinese group, at least this one, is catching up. This is not an open source, but they are catching up.
I did want to highlight, Michael online, saying optional as well. Adam, I did want to highlight, it's nice to see DeepSet, who's one of the vendors in our buyer's guide and who exhibited at our conference is on here. We had a meeting, I'm here in San Francisco, we had a meeting with one company that knows of another company that has 100 people, 100 engineers working on the Llama implementation here. It's still open source. I mean, Adam, it's a variant of Llama, right? So you have to get everyone in that team understands that particular version. I mean, so it gets the custom code pretty quickly, and I think supportability is a non-trivial component of this. So it's one of the charts we have in our, I know Ankaj and the team's working on in our buyer's guide is who is using Llama actually in production. And I think that's really, really interesting comment, but concept, because we're still very, very, very early in all this, and everyone loves the notion of potentially, at least open license or free download stuff. But we're still very early, and this is still on the R&D phase. So I think we're counting the hell out of an optional, Luda.
Yeah, no, this is certainly optional, and I think we will have way more tools coming up in how to take a Llama 3.1 or whatever Llama, and then solidify the parameters for maintainability, right? Because this is like massive forking of source code, right? It's like when we've seen it in the early days of software. So I agree with you, Paul. It will be a problem, but hasn't been resolved really.
And I guess we have a similar thing, Adam, with Android and the phones, right? Didn't Android just splinter into all these different variants on phones that end up being just basically a custom code base that each of the phone manufacturers had to? Anyway, it sounds like optional.
Yeah.
And I did at Sheets Online's also going back to earlier discussion on OpenAI, talking about how these kind of micro feature highlights is this incessant competition for attention. Sam Altman moves water cooler, issue a press release. So I think we're going to see more and more competition for any kind of coverage.
Yeah. So, and Michael is telling us that it is 24 months, so 2 years since ChatGPT was released. Wow, that's interesting. Thanks, Michael. All right, we are at the end of our list of articles. And Ankash, if you can show us the score. I think we have one important and all optionals, all the rest, correct? Right. So it's one important, the CN Brown use case, and the rest is optional. So great Wednesday. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for commenting. Thank you, participants, for being here and commenting. Thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow.